Oh, summer is here, and with it come warm temperatures, ice cream, and long summer evenings. Who has time to go to the movies or start a serious marathon on the couch? The summer slump is particularly noticeable this year. At least it is to me. So I decided to satisfy my longing for Caribbean flair with the Pirates of the Caribbean films. As a child, these films somehow passed me by, and until a few weeks ago, I hadn't seen any of them. That has finally changed as I watched the first Pirates of the Caribbean film. And since female characters in films and series are always of particular interest to me, I naturally took a very close look at the character of Elizabeth Swann. What can I say? Elizabeth Swann would probably hate the Tradwife movement on social media. Rebellious, she is defiant towards men and no longer lets herself be told what to do by them. That's my impression of her. Interestingly, Elizabeth is portrayed with the characteristics of a traditional wife at the beginning of the film. But she develops into a likable rebel over the course of the film. But why is Elizabeth not just the opposite of a Tradwife? Why did I miss Elizabeth's mother, and why do we need more female characters like her in films and series? We will answer these questions in this video. Pirates of the Caribbean is primarily intended to be entertaining. Still, since I enjoy analyzing even minor characters, let's take a closer look at Elizabeth first. We first encounter her in the opening scene. She is a young girl traveling on a British ship with her father, the new governor of Port Royal. A little girl surrounded by men. Her presence is problematic for the crew. A woman on board brings bad luck. And oh boy, that sentence says so much. The ship is seen as an exclusively male domain. There is no place for a woman here. The high seas can be rough and dangerous. It's too dangerous to let a woman travel with them. Here, the film connects with historic role models. During the British colonial era, social expectations and requirements for women were based on qualities such as obedience, modesty, domesticity, and virtue. Thus, women's roles were clearly defined as wives, mothers, and housewives, much like today's Tradwives. Adventure and traveling the world did not fit into this concept. Yet, Elizabeth is on the ship because her father wants her to accompany him. Soon after, Elizabeth finds Will Turner's pirate medallion and hides it from the crew and officers to prevent him from being punished as a pirate. She keeps the medallion until the day the actual plot of the film begins, which is when the story truly takes off. The medallion still plays an important role in the plot, but it wasn't that necessary that Elizabeth has to keep it. Perhaps it could have found its way back to Will or Jack Sparrow, or something else entirely could have happened with it. As a writer, you can be inventive, but the writers deliberately choose to link Elizabeth's fate to this medallion. She even secretly wears it under her corset. It symbolizes her desire for freedom, away from the strict norms and rules imposed on her as the daughter of a governor. Pirates can sail wherever they want. They can also do whatever they want. The only problem is that they make a living by attacking and robbing other ships. But they are free. And this is the reason why they are so fascinating to Elizabeth, that she studies their rules and values. She acquires knowledge of the pirate code and the rite of parley it contains. Although she was able to negotiate with Captain Barbossa, he accuses her of not being a pirate. He could have turned down the negotiation outright, but he seemed to respect her knowledge of the pirate code, as it is very rare for anyone who is not a pirate to be familiar with it. Perhaps this was also a kind of foreshadowing of the path Elizabeth would take, namely the path of a free pirate. At the beginning of the film, however, Elizabeth is locked in a golden cage, and the prospect of breaking out becomes even more unlikely when one of the leading officers proposes to her. Even though Elizabeth herself was kidnapped by pirates, she grows to love this life away from tight corsets, uncomfortable dresses, and waving fans. She realizes it is the right life for her, because she can finally decide what she wants and also be with the man she has chosen herself. No man can tell her what to do anymore. She has probably gained more combat experience than some of the soldiers standing guard for her father. And her father? Interestingly, he is characterized by stereotypically non-masculine traits. He doesn't fight, he runs away when danger arises, and, well, he loves his daughter and doesn't want to deny her any wish. This puts him in stark contrast to the other male characters in the film, but in the end it is also because of him that Elizabeth gets her way. But even if Elizabeth's character development seems very catchy and natural, in the next chapter we will look at why she can also be viewed more critically and why her decision would not have been so easy for every woman. As wonderful as it is to see Elizabeth break out of her golden cage, it must be emphasized that she comes from a highly privileged background. Her family is wealthy and wields political power through the governor's office. British soldiers are subordinate to the Swann family. They employ a large household staff and regularly commission craftsmen, such as the master blacksmith who is Will Turner's employer. Even though the freedom of a pirate's life is a highly coveted privilege for Elizabeth, it must be clearly stated that her previous life as the daughter of a governor had its many advantages. She has built a strong network, is familiar with high society customs, and can leverage her knowledge of them in negotiations, even though she detests them. She never had to worry about money, food, or shelter. Sure, she voluntarily gave all that up because freedom is more important to her. But what if we reverse the situation? What if Elizabeth came from a poor household? What if she had to sell her body daily to make ends meet? She might be free, but her life would be miserable. Thus, both freedom and Elizabeth's wealth are privileges. She had to work for one. She was born with the other one. And even if her plan to become a pirate doesn't work out, she can always go back to her father, who would most likely support her in one way or another. Whether that support would be in form of money, contacts, or other favors remains to be seen. Throughout the film, I wondered why Elizabeth's mother seemed to play no role at all. Typically, a character's relationship with their parents is used to explain a trait or behavior. However, Elizabeth's father is very much in the background, and her mother is not even mentioned. In this respect, I consider her absence as a missed opportunity to explore Elizabeth's character more profoundly. We could have learned more about her desire for freedom, her fascination with pirates, or her education, even though governesses often took over the upbringing of children in high-ranking English families and may have acted as surrogate mothers. This aspect was also completely missing. Don't get me wrong, the film doesn't need this explanation. It focuses more on Jack Sparrow and William Turner anyway. It's just a detail that could have added more depth to Elizabeth's character. On social media, more and more women are embracing the lifestyle of a tradwife, or a traditional wife. Feminine, submissive, and domestic. Some women celebrate this lifestyle as a form of empowerment because they consciously choose it, while others view it as a dangerous idealization of past role models. Elizabeth grew up with classic gender expectations and fulfilled them. However, after being abducted, she learned to appreciate life away from domesticity, virtue, and submission. She actively chose not to live as a tradwife and is now portrayed as a strong, independent woman. Interestingly, given today's heated debates about role models, feminism, and independence, Elizabeth Swann would probably receive significantly more negative attention than she did when the films were released. Clearly, a polarization has taken place here. Rather than accepting that women can choose a pirate's life, some circles today would consider it scandalous. The normalization of such female characters has been interrupted and even reversed. A woman must be one thing or the other. The development of a female character toward or away from a role model is poorly accepted. In this regard, the motion picture industry continues to require personas like Elizabeth Swann who display development, characters who challenge stereotypical thinking. That's why Elizabeth isn't just an anti-Tradwife, because that would just be another box we could put her in. Over the course of the film, she evolves. She learned to stand up for her desires and goals to live the life she longed for. It should be emphasized that she was able to shape her life in a way that many women probably cannot, because she came from a very privileged situation. Apart from the fact that we don't want to discuss the historical accuracy of the film, Elizabeth could choose between living as the daughter of a governor or living as a pirate. That choice alone is a privilege. Nevertheless, her character shows that women can evolve and make their own decisions. So what does Elizabeth Swann teach us really? Maybe that freedom isn't about fitting into a box, whether it's the obedient housewife or the sword-wielding rebel. It's about being able to choose. Elizabeth's strength lies not just in picking a different life, but in actively shaping her own path, even when it's messy or contradictory. In a world where women are still pressured to perform certain roles, whether that's a perfect homemaker, a boss babe, or a social media icon, Elizabeth reminds us that it's okay to change, to question, and to evolve. Her story isn't just about rejecting tradition, but about asking whose tradition, whose rules, and more importantly, whose life is it anyway? And that's why, even 2 decades later, we still need characters like Elizabeth Swann, because she doesn't just represent rebellion, she represents possibility. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more character analysis like this, feel free to subscribe.